Hey guys, welcome back to Pillbox Movies. I'm Hank, and today we're going to be watching the 2023 procedural drama Anatomy of a Fall. This is a film by French director Justine Triet, based on her screenplay and her husband's, I think. Yeah, based on a screenplay by her and her husband. I've seen one of Triet's other works, the 2019 movie Sibylle, starring Virginie Efira and Adèle Exarchopoulos. I think I'm saying that right. And it's a very, very messy work, but a lot of interesting stuff in it. Anatomy of a Fall won the Palme d'Or in 2023. It's been widely praised by critics. The movie is about a family that's torn apart by the death and perhaps apparent suicide of the husband and father. There are speculations as to what may have led to his death, and that slowly unravels the family. I'm really excited to watch this. I think that's enough said. So yeah, let's watch Anatomy of a Fall. And before we get started, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe for more old, obscure, and art house films.
What do you want to know? Just a sec, it hasn't recorded.
It's the beginning of The Shining.
Do you think one can only write from experience?
It's already playing on similar themes of Sibylle, of like blurring the lines of reality and fiction. And it's a theme shared across many movies, but the idea of how much of your personal life is actually like transactional can actually be utilized in an artistic form or a commercial form.
An interesting story, and I decide to put you in the book that I'm writing, and that's it.
Yeah, but still, you
this is a similar relationship in Sibylle between Adèle Exarchopoulos' character and I forgot her name. God damn, I'm so sorry. She's a well-renowned French actress, but Virginie Efira.
Is that your goal?
What would you write about? It's somewhere working upstairs, my husband.
You don't want to go on with my question?
Of course I want to go on vacation. Of course. But we could chat too.
I want to see Triet's other movie. It's funny to follow this format of the kind of like dialectic or didacticism between like two women, one in a higher position, one in a lower, and then negotiating that space, whether or not it's like actually one is trying to portray themselves as being equals, but like a therapist and a patient, or a professor and a graduate student. Ooh, look at that blurring on the end. Look at that fake zoom. Oh wow. Anatomy of a Fall, I get it. You know what movie we should do on this channel? I've been waiting so long to do it. I've never really found a good time to do it. But there's this 90s movie that I watched long time ago that I only found out recently was a Barbet Schroeder film. If you know what I'm getting at, I'd be interested in watching that again. I saw it when I was a kid. I'd love to revisit it as an adult, especially knowing the guy who directed it. I love that we're following this dog throughout the early part of this narrative. It's leading me to believe that the dog is somehow in part responsible, or kind of like whatever like mechanism caused his fall. The dog was in part was an actor in that. That is a cute picture of Sandra Hüller. I love that. This is a normal thought for like a procedural film or a courtroom drama, but this idea being displayed with the various pictures that there's no like solid conclusive truth, that you can only decipher the truth by association, by the close association of photos or objects. They give it an impression, a rough idea of where the truth lies. But as to truth itself, it'll never be so tangible, so physical. So what we may infer by their relationship from the photographs, similarly, we have to infer as to what the event is that caused this death.
This is really weird.
Yes.
Again like this.
It is.
Okay.
Old flame, old lover.
How many times have you been questioned?
It's been once here by the policeman and once by the investigative judge.
Movies about women who kind of want to leave their husbands.
Honey, I know this is hard. It's hard for me too. And it's going to be hard for a while.
Good for Triet. She was like, this is something that I kind of remark on European directors. There's a certain point in their career where they're like, I need to gear this towards an international audience. So they start making shortcuts, especially like having characters speak in English. If you like follow like Lars von Trier's career or like the Drive director, you kind of realize that they make very, very early advancements into making English language films, acquainting themselves with English-speaking actors and actresses, and getting more international financing for their films.
What we can defend is a fall from the attic window with him bouncing off the shed roof.
He didn't slip on the ball, did he? That would be established way too early on. That would be too simple a solution to the dog's ball.
That explains the blood on the snow. But there are several problems. First, they found nothing on the roof, no DNA, nothing.
It's an interesting mystery.
Blood spatters here on the wall. There's the one last problem for us, that bruise on your arm. It might look like the result of a fight, struggle.
So when I'm here in the kitchen, I bang my arm on this all the time. You see, it's like when I move. I told them that my skin.
They had a fight. They definitely had a fight.
I just can't imagine him jumping with Daniel so close by. It's just, I just can't get it in my head.
Yeah, but it's probably our best defense. I mean, if they indict you.
But I think he fell.
Yeah, but
it's an interesting.
Gonna believe that.
It's an interesting complication because all they have to do is like meet the burden of proof or not meet the burden of proof. Like it's the prosecution's onus to establish enough proof to justify this being a possible homicide or a possible manslaughter. But their best strategy is to offer up a different, another lie, something that she doesn't even believe, that he was suicidal. It's a similar kind of like combative strategy that's like shown in Marriage Story, for example.
I found him passed out drunk on the floor. He'd vomited. It was very early in the morning. And I remember wondering if they were pills.
Really?
Might have been a suicide attempt, no?
Like using an overtly aggressive strategy in order to like compromise on the thing that you come to a decision on the thing that you actually want. And that's like an interesting
yes.
wrinkle in Marriage Story, and it's an interesting wrinkle here where by adopting that aggressive stance, by trying to get what you want, which is a compromise, but never being able to say what you want as a compromise, you actually end up sacrificing the dynamics of your family, of your personal life. That she's going to tear apart her relationship with her son by trying to pose this this strategy that her husband was suicidal, similarly to how in Marriage Story their lives get fucked up by accusing each other legalistically of being worse partners than they were.
J'ai juste transposé ce que vous m'avez dit en dialogue direct.
Mais j'ai pas dit ça dans cette langue.
Le plus important, là, c'est le niveau sonore. Alors, le français, c'est plus simple pour tout le monde.
Tu vas continuer au grenier, non?
Ok, vous coupez?
Tu peux couper?
Okay, pausing for a second. This is also an interesting construction. I think I'm getting a sense that this movie is going to be about construction and the construction of justifiable realities that are actually falsehoods, but justifiable in terms of meeting characters' needs. Because when they're conducting this interview, this test, they say she relates to them that in the original encounter she was speaking German or she was speaking English, and they say it's just easier to say in French, that there's convenience. And I think what we're meant to rub up against is whether or not this convenience is actually facilitating the truth or facilitating an acceptable answer. Because that's something that's established also with their strategy of defense of Samuel's suicidal ideation and stuff. Okay, I think we're establishing early ideas of where this movie might lead.
T'as entendu quelque chose?
Ok, on va recommencer un cran plus fort.
Yeah, this establishment of what is credible, what is a good, what is an acceptable story, in contrast to what is the direct reality.
Mais Vincent, j'ai jamais crié.
Enfin, vous voyez que ça colle pas là. La musique recouvre tout, donc
Yeah, and the replacement of a real character with fictional character. It is the kind of what I'm viewing as the Matryoshka doll of Triet's kind of narratives, locking a story within a story within a story. And them documenting it for the purposes of the trial is another layer of artifice, of trying to capture reality, but perhaps constructing something that is subjective and tainted and biased, which is something that's also echoed in Sibylle as well, with like Shooting the Movie, or the book that Virginie Efira's character is writing about her client, which is just such a tremendous trespass of client doctor-client relations. It's really interesting. It's really interesting watching these directors who like are working out their own shit on the screen. I'm not saying that this stuff actually happened to Triet or stuff, but watching her work through the same narrative heartbeat, the same narrative story in like different expressions. I'm really interested to watch Triet's other work now, because I'm seeing the same kind of like dynamics echoing throughout. Like with the piano, it's a theme and it's a variation, and you kind of like discover through playing the same thing over and over again and iterating on it that there's actually a combination that will strike gold, that will land with an audience, and they'll totally accept it. And so it's not a matter of completely throwing away the baby with the bathwater, even if you're not financially successful with your first manifestation of an idea or of an obsession. You just have to like calibrate it, and hopefully it'll find its audience eventually. It's really, really interesting. And part of the cool kind of interaction of that is her working within the mystery or thriller genre and having that kind of like commercial
This afternoon was hard.
facade or structure in which to lay in that the personal obsessions or the personal repetitions.
But you didn't lie, did you? I don't want you to change your memories, you know. You have to tell them exactly like you remember it.
Yeah, okay. I think we've established a firm idea in this. A central thesis of the inviolability of the truth.
Oui.
That there's a belief that the truth will triumph over all, and perhaps a antithesis to that point, that the truth could be manipulated, that the truth, if seen in fractions or seen in from a different side or different perspective, will only reveal biases.
Donc vous confirmez qu'il s'agit d'une vidéo. Alors s'il n'y a rien de nouveau, comment expliquez-vous cette nouvelle convocation?
Je ne sais pas quoi vous dire. Moi, je ne l'explique pas.
This is an interesting iteration on the idea of truth being captured in a medium, that there's a video that will speak truth, but it's also it's that fucking meme. It's only capturing a slice. This is also something that's in Sibylle, with the movie itself capturing a slice of an interaction, the movie in the movie, and the book in itself capturing a slice. And even if it's reporting things that actually happened, it's still reporting it from a perspective, from a bias that is tainting it.
Ensuite, la reconstitution effectuée il y a 3 jours a mis en lumière un certain nombre d'incohérences.
Oui, et c'est moi, Vincent Renzi, son avocat, m'a fait un pouvoir, c'est moi qui vais venir chercher les documents pour lui amener.
It's really, really fun to see this fascination of this director with like mediums, with the ways that things, with like a game of telephone, how things are transposed from one reality or one truth to another, and how that transfer breaks down the reality or the truth of the situation, and see it manifest here in a courtroom setting with recordings, with video, with documents. It's really cool to see her obsession with this idea manifesting in this procedural setting. It really fits in well. Testimony can be true from a perspective, but it can be incomplete. It's really, really cool to see ideas that were so raw in Sibylle become like not necessarily more refined, but like slide into a more evocative form here.
C'est totalement insensé. Avec un enfant malvoyant, c'est impossible. Puis en plus, son visage est dans tous les médias. Séparer l'enfant de sa mère, c'est prendre le risque du traumatisme de trop.
That recording is not
It's a really cool
reality.
kind of like specific obsession of this
It
director.
is a part of it, maybe. If you have an extreme moment in life, an emotional peak, and you focus on it, of course it crushes everything. It may seem like irrefutable proof, but actually
I love this.
everything.
This is really...
It's not reality. It's our voices. That's true, but it's not who we
I don't
are.
give a fuck about what
It
is
really
reality,
is.
Okay? You need
Taking
to start
this
seeing
idea in a
yourself
really cool
the way
direction.
Others are going to perceive you. A trial is not about
It's
the
about
truth,
perception.
it's a-
Et puis, la juge a été très claire, il faudra toujours parler français en sa présence.
And this is another instance in which communication or language is it's mandated in a way to make things easier, that the judge is mandating that Daniel speak French for the ease of the court, but that translation, that transcription of his ideas, his thoughts into a different language might affect what the meaning is of what he's trying to express. It's a really interesting idea expressed kind of subtly by Triet and perhaps her co-writer as well, that it's actually like anti-consolidation, that there's like this huge bureaucracy represented by France or represented by whatever within the EU that's trying to consolidate everything by systematizing everything as a matter of convenience, as a matter of making things like fair and generalized for everybody. But when you get down into like very personal cases, you find that these blanket practices are actually stripping away their individual ability to express themselves. There's the zoom again. It's a weird concerted effort on this movie's part to take like little breaths, but introduce the zooms at key moments with key elements. Again, recreation, reproduction, reproductions, recordings, things that try and approximate the truth, but for the purposes of
I suppose that's charm, isn't it? It's,
easing it, facilitating it, it strips away truth. I think it's great that a movie that is so resistant to the idea that truth can be facilitated by medium is itself perhaps the director's most successful work to date, because it's making use of like medium or of genre in order to facilitate the communication of an idea. That a procedural is actually the best genre to communicate the idea of truths.
It was hard.
Illusory nature, truth's incompatibility
And
with
I came to realize
human
that
happiness.
his relationship with time, with work, was complicated. Unlike for me, for example.
No, stop comparing yourself to him. Just go back to your relationship.
Everything changed after the accident. Daniel was 4. And as they were crossing the street, a motorcycle hit Daniel. His optic nerve was permanently damaged. He was overcome with guilt. And perhaps he never truly escaped that feeling.
You have to prepare yourself to tell everything, and challenge is to do it in French.
Oh, this is this is also like commenting on the aspect of like metafictional, of like the meta reality of film itself. The idea that they're replaying this event over and over again, and now in a courtroom setting, that their lives become enveloped in one act being performed over and over again.
Vous saviez que Sandra, comme vous l'appelez, était bisexuelle?
Non.
Is that necessary?
Non, ça m'ennuie d'être réduite à un statut marital.
Ah, très bien, c'était pas mon intention.
Oh, she hella gay.
Je me suis séduite sur le moment.
Est-ce que vous êtes d'accord pour dire que la diffusion d'une musique par Samuel Maleski d'une façon aussi violente...
Et l'écouter très souvent, ce morceau, c'était pas intentionnel, je pense.
Did you say speaker? Sorry.
Une enceinte.
Une enceinte puissante Pardon.
Yeah, you see how like language is used to facilitate the prosecutor side, or at least the court's disposition at the expense of the defendant.
J'avais une traduction à rendre et je voulais finir avant de me reposer.
Oh, that's right. She's a translator as well, translating text for German. Yeah, another transposition.
Choc de ce qui s'est passé ensuite qui a dû tout chambouler dans ma tête en fait.
Oui, un psychiatre s'est entretenu avec Daniel et a confirmé les effets possibles du choc sur certains détails de sa mémoire.
Bien sûr. Et tu te rappelles maintenant de ce que t'es revenu faire dans la maison?
Another very intense camera movement to show the disposition of Daniel.
Je me souviens pas exactement.
Donc oui, t'es passé d'une certitude absolue à une incertitude.
Vous voulez nous faire croire quoi exactement, que le choc a pu aussi transformer des hurlements en voix calme?
It's really interesting. I'm not sure if this is the intention of the filmmakers or not, but I think they're utilizing this platform of a kid dealing with the trial of his mother over the death of his father, and kind of like using it as a surface to kind of observe the complications and the feelings that a child has in like a family of conflict or a divorce. That his memories are being manipulated, that he's experiencing trauma, that he doesn't remember clearly what happens because he's being put in this position of either advocating for his father or advocating for his mother.
Tête déportée dans le vide au moment où il a reçu les coups pour que les projections se forment à cet endroit-là.
What was the shape of the attacker there? Because that's also something that could be suggestive if they made it have breasts, for example, but also just like establishing that it was somebody that was similar height to Samuel. That's already kind of predisposing the jury or the judge to believe that it was Sandra.
Qui est d'ailleurs un état dans lequel la force physique peut être démultipliée.
Il y a deux explications possibles à ces trois gouttes. La première hypothèse apparaît comme improbable. Elle ne résiste pas à l'analyse de la forme et de la dynamique. Donc, si on se concentre sur la seconde hypothèse...
Yeah, kind of pause again. Yeah, this is, again, an instance where we're kind of seeing how truth is manipulated by intention, and that truth is actually, for however much there's quantifiable truth, it's an aperture. There's a closed aperture of truth, and when you widen it out, you can widen it out to fit your perspective. Insert meme once again. Which is kind of like speculating on a movie on the fly for a YouTube video.
On va aborder des sujets qui seront beaucoup plus perturbants pour toi, donc j'ai décidé que demain tu viendrais pas. Oui. Tu peux tout entendre, mais la question c'est est-ce que tu peux tout gérer ensuite. Et puis nous on travaille, tu vois.
C'est déjà fait en fait, c'est pour ça. Moi j'ai besoin de... C'est pour ça que j'ai besoin d'entendre, parce que ça me permet de dépasser ça.
Ouais, mais attends, le but du procès c'est pas que tu entendes tout. C'est d'établir la vérité sans que nous, on soit obligés de se censurer.
Excusez-moi, mais qui s'est censuré? De toute façon, même si vous
Sorry, it's like the trial itself. It's like it's held on the edifice of being about finding the truth, about not censoring yourself. But when you look at it from different perspectives, you already see how destabilized that position is. That everybody has come in with an awareness and an idea and an interpretation of how it should, what the result should be, and that is tampering with every aspect of the process because they are aiming towards a certain direction.
Qui est assez étonnant pour un événement aussi. Elle avait vomi, et dans le vomi, j'ai vu de l'aspirine. Oui, au début, j'ai pas compris ce que c'était, mais plus tard.
This is kind of the cool artifice of the movie itself. It's really interesting that these like flashbacks or these hypotheticals. It kind of lives in this in-between world of truth and fiction. It's truth because we're seeing it on the screen. It's something that's like factually being registered by our eyes, but we also kind of know it as a deception or an inaccuracy, either because it's existing in the character's imagination or in their memory, or because it's being filmed in a film itself, which is itself an artifice. So it's a lie or an illusion in the heads of the characters, but also the characters themselves are a lie or an illusion.
Je l'ai vu par terre.
Et personne d'autre n'a été témoin de ça?
Non. And he wanted to write. He'd been working on a novel for years before and after Daniel's accident. Couldn't do it anymore. He just stopped. It made him feel like a coward, He ended up convincing himself that he could not drive.
This is really interesting because it's because I don't even know if she necessarily believes this or not, but she's speaking actual truths of her relationship with her husband, and those are the things that are being seen as false within the courtroom setting. Those are the things that they're going to try and tear apart and undermine. But the conclusion that she reaches about it is that the actual thing that she doesn't believe, the thing that her husband was suicidal and that she couldn't help him, that's something that she doesn't want to portray about her husband, but she has to for the purposes of this trial. And if she is acquitted, that's the thing that'll be established as a truth, when that's the only part of this that's fictional.
La responsabilité de cet accident en lui imposant le sacrifice de ce qui comptait le plus pour lui, écrire.
I don't know, you come here, okay, with maybe your opinion, but what you say is just it is just a little part of the whole
situation. It's a report of his perspective. Yeah.
Sometimes a couple
is made up of a lot of things.
It's kind of a chaos.
Yeah.
And everybody is lost. No, if I'd been seeing a therapist, he could stand here too and say very ugly things about Samuel, but
that's what's in our relationship. Yeah.
Votre fils a presque perdu la vue, et vous lui en avez voulu pendant seulement quelques jours.
Yeah, this is. It turns out this is the stuff that Daniel shouldn't be hearing. That's a great kind of inversion or subversion of what we were expecting of this day. We were expecting Daniel to be traumatized by hearing the suicidal ideations of his father, but those weren't the truth. The truth that we're actually hearing is what his mother felt about what happened.
Because as soon as you mark a child that way, you condemn him to not see his life as his own. He's a very lively kid.
It's a wonderful small subversion.
Yeah. So perhaps
you can actually see the perspective of.
I resented somewhat for projecting his own pain onto Daniel.
That Sandra doesn't believe that her son is handicapped. And she, from her perspective, she believes that to empower him, and you could see how that could be read as cold or imperceptive on her part, that she pushes Daniel too hard, or she doesn't understand his pain, or at least the pain that he develops in concert with his father. That it's that relationships are kind of like a shared delusion where you adjust your own personality to fit the perceptions of the person that you love. So on the side of Daniel's mother, he is self-determined and self-sufficient, and he can handle all this stuff. And on the side of his relationship with his father, he is disabled and infirm and needs help and needs to process this grief of this event or this crisis that happened to him. And you wonder where Daniel actually lives in between those two polar opposites. And you wonder where he lands in that situation of his accident and in this situation of his father's death.
I just want you to know one thing. I am not I'm not that monster, And it wasn't like that,
It's really, really cool to see
Your father was my soul.
it work out this director's obsessions. Really, really see from her perception the volatility of truth.
How do you prove that?
How much truth can be changed and manipulated to suit needs, and how, like Daniel, we're kind of blind to the whole picture.
What do you expect me to do? I mean, it's part of the job. You have to organize yourself differently.
Organize your time differently if you want to. It's up to you.
When's the last time you've helped him doing his homework?
It's delicious.
There's a ton of things you don't give a
It's
shit
delicious.
about. But, I've been following your lead for years. It's not my time, it's yours.
Do I force you to homeschool Daniel? No one's forcing you.
I really, really love this performance by Sandra Hüller. That this is not. It's really, really cool.
I have to finish the renovation.
It's a very kind of perplexed characterization. She doesn't really understand all of these things that are happening around her, and you wonder if that's a a block on her part or if it's intentional. But it's really, really cool because if you read all of the characteristics of her, the behavior of her on paper within a trial situation, she comes off as so cold, so calculated, so disinterested in her son or her husband. And the way she performs it is just completely the opposite of that. And it forms this really weird miasma of whether or not she is intentionally very, very malicious, very careful, or if this is like a kind of like an incredible misread on the part of a like misogynistic or a biased jury or court to read all these like very regular kind of behaviors and perspectives of a woman as like, especially within the salacious context of a possible murder trial, seeing them all as being calculated and deceptive and manipulative.
I don't believe in the notion of reciprocity in a couple. It's naive and frankly, it's depressing. Yes. And
it's a very, very grounded, normal performance. No hint of villainy whatsoever. It's she's seeing very regular actions, her very, very regular actions and reactions being warped so out of belief or so far away from the truth within the context of this trial.
Son in the house and groceries to buy. Stop whining about your scheduling bullshit and drop this logic which comes down to casting blame on me for what you did or didn't do. I don't owe you anything. Really. This is your own trap.
Okay, so now you're talking about the past. I could answer this point by point.
I really love this dynamic, their argument, the way that it's acted, because we're put in a position so much, or at least maybe the male audience, maybe myself, you're put in such a position to believe what Samuel's saying. This is a revelation of information. He's very emotional. He seems like very put upon by his wife, who's trying to be even keeled in this, and so many markers are pointing you towards believing Samuel's perspective on this. But if you actually see it from Sandra's perspective, she's like,
say it inspired me. I'll admit to it.
Very reasonable in being even keeled about this. Nothing she's saying is necessarily wrong. It isn't wrong at all. But when you put the added context, the anxiety that she may be responsible for his death, then everything that she said is colored by this.
And frankly, I wish you'd be inspired to plunder me.
I'm not a victim. I'm a man who's been cheated on, plundered and cheated on.
Yeah, I mean, like, maybe I'm just biased, based on my projections on what the director is and what the characterizations are. This doesn't seem like the most believable Samuel.
The frustration is there, and we're both dealing with it, you see. Me personally.
I'm astounded by how reasonable Sandra is in this argument, and how much her reasonableness will be taken as being a bitch.
And you need someone to blame, and you're the one to blame.
She might be right. He might be right.
By your own fucking standards and your fear of failure. This is the truth.
It's just so unfortunate that they withhold these truths from each other, and then it just explodes. It explodes in a public setting. That's what relationships are. Waiting for an explosion in a public setting. It's really depressing.
You take that back, you piece of shit. You take it back.
Told me countless times how hard you are.
Couples are this like private affair, this mystery, and when you take a slice of it and throw it into the public forum, it becomes this monstrosity.
You fucking eyes!
Yeah, that's not going to look good in a court transcript. I love that cut, that this is the point where we're withheld, that there's an illusion of truth that we see of they're shooting the scenes of their interaction, and here's where we cut off, at the moment where everything's the most uncertain.
Il avait pris l'habitude depuis 6 mois d'enregistrer les moments de sa vie. On peut voir cette dispute comme une sorte de répétition générale de ce qui a pu se passer.
It's also very key wording, dress rehearsal. The idea that these are performances. It's playful with the way it integrates language about performance, about the medium into a procedural setting.
Qu'on entend étouffés sont ceux de Monsieur Maleski.
And that's when he grabbed my wrist Quite violently, and that's the struggling we can hear.
Et en dehors de cette gifle, est-ce que vous avez frappé votre mari?
No.
Yes, but she's gotta say no.
What we hear next is Samuel repeatedly hitting himself in the face.
Nobody's gonna believe that. Nobody's gonna believe that. It's weird because like
there are a few of them.
I'm gonna pause for a second. Pausing in 3, 2, 1. Pause. This. I do wonder if the movie's gonna end up saying that actually happened. That she's reporting the truth in this instance. But nobody's gonna believe that, and it's really funny that nobody's gonna believe this truth because she has already reinforced it with a lie. With her giving testimony that he was suicidal, that he had an evening of vomiting up pills, something that may or may not have happened, but her delivery of it, I'm guessing it didn't happen. She was told to tell this story to prop up the suicide defense, and her telling that story is unbelievable. So it already undermines her in the face of the jurors, in the eyes of the jurors, and in the eyes of the judge. And so when she tells the truth of what actually happened, a truth that is so ridiculous that her husband was beating himself on the face, that gets undermined by her previous testimony. And so a ridiculous truth is undone by a more likely lie, a more possible lie, a lie of something that could have been, that was a lie about something that was more plausible. What a tangled web we weave.
Elle a menti plusieurs fois pendant l'enquête, donc je pense pas qu'on puisse croire.
Il s'agit de croire ou de ne pas croire.
Yeah, so like even if she lies, it's not a matter of her character; it's a matter of the truth.
De répétition générale, vous en avez trouvé des preuves directes?
L'enregistrement qu'on a entendu est une preuve directe qu'il y a eu une dispute violente.
Moi, je parle du jour de la mort.
But like a trial, like everything, all of this is not about the truth. All of this is about a judgment of character.
Now, with hindsight, it seems possible that he could have provoked this fight just to record it.
Attendez, vous êtes en train de me dire que
Another artifice,
c'est vous, la victime
another
entendu,
idea of performance that Samuel might have been using this as like fodder for his book, that he instigated this fight. And pausing for a second, and that reality is destabilized by recording, by perception, that if this recording didn't exist, this fight might have never happened, that in order to capture solid physical evidence of reality, it's like the Heisenberg principle. You've disrupted it by trying to record it. These events may have never happened if an attempt at recording these events didn't change them. Crazy.
All I took was this idea. My characters are a woman and her daughter, and I developed a story over 300 pages.
And this is also something that's where we're seeing in Sibyl too, the idea of what is like a trespass in terms of the adaptation of something into another form, because in that a therapist takes her meetings with a client and turns them into a novel that is very, very obviously about her life, but it's supposed to be fictional and stuff. And that one isn't necessarily on the side of the writer, that not everything is fair game, or even if it is, the writer has to know in their heart that they are trespassing a real personal relationship in order to have a successful artistic or professional product or result. And so even here, even if Sandra is justified, even if L'Eclipse is her creation, there's still a degree of like trespass, or at least knowledge that she undermined a real relationship for an ideation, for an idea.
Je précise, c'est une femme qui parle de son mari. Il avait cessé de se plaindre.
This is getting very metafictional. Like you wonder how much is like the truth or fiction in this.
Une idée surgit alors. Perdue pour son désir, n'était plus qu'un objet lourd. Ce corps qu'elle avait aimé et qui devenait gênant devait disparaître.
Si vous voulez, je peux vous lire tout Stephen King pour vous prouver que c'est un serial killer.
Mais est-ce que la femme de Stephen King a été retrouvée morte chez lui dans des circonstances plus... Vous avez toujours été, en toutes circonstances, cette bonne âme admirable, tente d'empêcher l'autre de se faire du mal, sauf au moment de cet enregistrement, c'est pas de chance.
Ce qui a marqué les derniers mois de la vie de cet homme, c'est pas une guerre dans son couple. C'est le constat d'une faillite personnelle.
Yeah, this trial is, I mean, in an attempt to save Sandra, is really about destroying Daniel. It really kind of feels like a divorce court hearing, or not Daniel, Samuel. It really feels like a divorce court proceeding from the perspective of Daniel.
Bon. Avant de suspendre
To save Sandra's life,
vous annoncer, j'ai décidé
we have to have the most
Daniel
desperate projection of what Samuel
Il
is.
m'a fait part de nouveaux éléments qui intéressent l'insiste. Hein. Personne ne devra le questionner sur son témoignage.
And so the son, in order to preserve both the identities of his parents, in order to save his mother and save his father, will admit himself.
C'était pas à ce point, c'était pas aussi violent. Mais...
Bon. Tes seules certitudes, c'est tes souvenirs. Donc tu vas les raconter au jury parce qu'ils sont très importants. Mais toi, t'es qu'un témoin.
Toi, qu'est-ce que tu crois? Tu penses qu'elle a pu le tuer?
I don't know. Can't know.
Mais putain, aide-moi!
It's an interesting crisis that he has the truth. He knows something that happened, or is close to approximating knowing something that happened because he conducted an experiment and it's led him to a theory that supports his idea of something that happened. But he doesn't know whether or not to tell this account because regardless of whether or not it's the truth, he doesn't know the truth of whether or not his mother was responsible for this. For his father's death, and so he's only willing to describe this account based on whether or not he knows, whether or not he believes his mother did it or not. So it's another instance of the truth being shifted to support a lie or to support a supposition.
Là, ce que tu me dis, c'est que je dois faire semblant d'être
non. Non, moi je dis décider. C'est pas la même chose.
It's like the end of a separation. I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, I thought this would like lead to like one inviolate solution, one projection of what the truth is, but it's going to be the end of a separation. It's going to be about a son deciding it's going to be about a child deciding which parent they want to side with.
Et dans la voiture, il a rien dit pendant tout le trajet. Il mettait même pas de musique, ça lui arrivait jamais. D'habitude, il en met tout le temps. Il m'a dit, tu sais qu'il peut tomber malade.
These different presentations of memories are so thrilling. The different ways that these characters remember or project memories of things.
Il m'a dit, si, il faut l'envisager. Tu sais, ça va forcément arriver un jour. Puis attends, ça serait pas étonnant qu'il commence à être fatigué, là, Snoop. Il est pas toujours.
I also really love that we're hearing this testimony directly in a microphone, projected more intensity than anything else that we've seen in the trial so far.
Tu sais, c'est pas juste un chien que t'as. C'est un super chien.
The moment that we're thinking
C'est un immense chien que t'as.
The moment we think we're the closest to reality or to the truth
de comprendre ce que tu veux,
is the most artificial.
De prévoir tes mouvements,
It's like Citizen Kane.
Tout ce qui peut te mettre en danger. Il passe sa vie à essayer de deviner ce dont t'as besoin.
How much it like distorts truth the closer you get. It's a really cool kind of destabilized film.
Fatigué, hein. S'occuper toujours des autres.
And we take this testimony as truth because it's like the closest to the end. It's not like analyzed or undermined in the way that anything else over the course of this trial has been. And it's a matter of character judgment again, because Daniel is seen as unassailable in a way that Sandra and Samuel can't be.
Maintenant, en fait, je sais y parler de lui.
The guy in the back looks like a mix between Casey Affleck and Henry Cavill.
Daniel.
Sandra Voiter, Madame Voiter, quel est votre sentiment?
I love how in the end all these aspects of like truth are being destabilized, that we're like hearing things and seeing something different happening simultaneously. We're seeing things viewed on a television screen. We're seeing a character watch this who can't watch it. At the moment where truth is supposed to be the most solid, it's actually the most divorced from... It's actually the most divorced or or questionable or subjective.
It's just, you know, when you lose, you lose. If you win, you kind of expect some reward, but there isn't any.
Maybe sometimes we expect too much.
Like us as an audience, we're expecting too much and expecting a resolution to this. We need confirmation whether or not she killed him or he committed suicide, and we're not going to get it. Because whatever she says at the end of this, we're not going to believe her. We need a physical confirmation of something that happened, and it's the kind of like unreality of this movie that everything that we see is not real. It's a narrative. It's made up. So if we see one version or another, it would be satisfying, but it would only be satisfying based on confirming or denying something that we already thought. So our satisfaction at the end of this comes at the sacrifice of truth. The truth is just another cog in the ongoing narrative of our lives, the ongoing confirmation bias of our lives. What we want out of this movie isn't the truth. It's whatever we want to believe about the world. Cool. Very, 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 very good. I'd even say, like, in some ways, like, it's in my reading, in my viewing, it feels like an actual, like, a companion piece to Citizen Kane. It's a meditation on truth and perception and the distortions that perception brings to truth, and the eventual impossibility of truth that a fixed event can only happen in the past, and our attempts to understand it or to rationalize it or to depict it or to record it distort it. It doesn't exist anymore. It's something that happened, and our repeated attempts to try and bring it forth into the present, to relive it, to recapture it, is us rewriting it with our present biases. Remarkable work. I actually think that I guess my number one takeaway is I'm going to check out Triet's other work, see what I get out of them. I find myself in a really weird position because I think this is better than Sibylle, and in some ways I find myself liking Sibylle more. I mentioned this earlier, but I kind of compare this to Tom Stoppard's Arcadia, where Arcadia was like this 1992-1993 play by the playwright who was really smart. He's into a lot of like kind of like wordplay and like geniuses and turns of phrase and just like a lot of intricate like overlapping layered narratives and stuff, and you could see these eccentricities come out in his earlier works and stuff, but it wasn't as refined. And when he gets to Arcadia, he finds like this lightning bolt, this moment where he can distill it all into such a perfect form that it's like a perfect manifestation of all of his obsessions in a perfectly commercial form. And I think this is something similar, where this is so perfectly formed. This is such a great adjustment, calibration of Triet's own interests and obsessions in a way that is commercially digestible. That it's an astounding work, but I kind of like miss the rough edges, the kind of like rawness, and the unmanicuredness of aspects of Sibylle, because I think this is like much better, much more refined, definitely refined than Sibylle, and yet there are parts of Sibylle's personality that I really connect with more. And part of that, I think, is just so what is so like withheld within the performance and within the writing of Sandra's character, of Sandra Hüller's performance. But that's not to take away from this this is like a magical work, and you should definitely check it out and see what you take away from it. If you've seen this, let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know if you've seen any of Triet's other stuff, and what you'd recommend. In the meantime, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe for more old, obscure, and art house films. And until next time, keep watching good movies. I just want you to see my poster of the day, because this one I really like. Ooh, Getsu. Ooh, that's a nice one.